Our Torah reading from Parshat Emor, from the end of chapter 22 and chapter 23 of the book of Leviticus, is familiar. We read it on different holidays. We read it as part of our Sukkot reading, and again now today, because it focuses on the calendar itself. It focuses on a calendar of sacred time and how we mark time. How each and every holiday that passes is a way that we acknowledge time that has passed. Each is a holy moment, but each is also a marker in our own lives. For another, Passover has passed. Another Sukkot has passed, another Shavuot, another Rosh Hashanah. And with each moment, with each service, with each marker, and each milestone, we understand that our lives pass us by. Our Torah reading reminds us to set aside these sacred times, these sacred occasions. The Torah reading ends with the words actually that we use for our Yom Tov Kiddush, Vaydaber Moshe Moedei Adonai El Bnei Yisrael, that Moses declared to the Israelites these Moedei Adonai, these holy times of God, these divine holidays that God commanded us to observe, that we continue to observe even in challenging times. And chapter 23 does just that. It begins by talking about these fixed times. These Moedei Adonai. It begins by talking about Shabbat, the Sabbath. 6 days you work and then you shall rest. And then it talks about the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Chag HaMatzot, Passover. And then after Passover, we're told, you can follow along if you want on safari.org, we're in chapter 23 of the book of Leviticus, verse 15. And from the day on which you bring a sheaf of evolution offering, the day after the Sabbath you shall count off 7 weeks. They must be complete. You must count until the day after the 7th week, 50 days. Then you shall bring an offering of new grain to God. Last night at our Passover Seders, we began that counting, because after the next stage of counting sacred time, after we observe Passover, is the counting of the Omer. Literally, these words for sheaves of wheat and Omer. And we count 7 weeks, 49 days. And on that 50th day, 50 representing a jubilee, a celebration, a new beginning, we observe Shavuot, the holiday in which we celebrate Matan Torah, we celebrate receiving the Torah from Mount Sinai. And it's as if these 50 days, these days of counting, really represent our feeling lost in the wilderness. If Passover was the exodus from Egypt, and Shavuot was receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai, the Omer, those 49 days in between, from one to the other, represent the Israelites wandering circuitously through the wilderness, making wrong turns, getting lost along the way, because they are free but not yet ready to be a people. We count those days when we feel lost. We count those days when we feel alone. We count those days when we don't know which way to turn. And we hear each and every day, each and every evening, goes dark. And then again, we acknowledge on a morning minyan each and every morning that new day that we have counted of the Omer. And we began counting last night, and we say together, Hineni muchan mazuman l'kayem mitzvat l'oseh shel sfrat Omer. I'm ready to fill the counting of the Omer as it said in the Torah, what we read this morning, that you shall count from the eve of the second day of Pesach, when an Omer of grain is to be brought as an offering, 7 complete weeks. The day after the 7th week of your counting will make 50 days. Hayom Yom Echad LaOmer. Today is the first day of the Omer. I have to admit, last night at our Seder in my household, when we got to this portion of the Seder, after our 4th cup of wine, as we're ready to conclude, is when we count the Omer on the 2nd Seder. I choked up. All the rituals of the Seder, truth be told, I found quite comforting in these uncertain times, but when it came to the counting of the Omer, I got a little bit more emotional because what we've been doing during this time has been counting. We've been counting how long we've been at home. That's the way we've been surviving this mentally and emotionally. That's the way we've been getting through each day. We say, all right, let's just get through this week and then get to Shabbat. And then the next week starts, let's get through this week and get to Shabbat. And I thought about it today during that counting. Hayom Shomona v'Esrim Yom Shehem Arba Shavuot. That today marks the 28th day since we've had to close our building, since we've all been staying at home, making that 4 weeks of isolation, 1 whole month of quarantine, 28 days of being alone, of striving to connect virtually with community. We count when we count the Omer because we know there's an end in sight. We get to that 49th day and then we know that the Jubilee day, and we know that Shavuot will be there the next day. And we count now 28 days, 4 weeks, and we're unsure of when this end will be. You know, I think that's what makes it so hard. That if there was an end goal, if we knew where we were getting towards, we would hunker down and we'd be able to get through it. But the counting each day, not knowing when we're counting to, makes the counting especially challenging and emotional. But as our Torah reading this morning tells us, we count in order to mark sacred time. And so we count to mark this strange time in our lives. We count 28 days, 4 weeks of being at home, with many days and weeks to come. As Governor Murphy announced that our schools will remain closed in the state indefinitely. Certainly our houses of worship, our gathering spaces, our Beth synagogue building is taking its lead from the governor, from the health departments, from the CDC. And so until then, we keep counting. We keep doing this live stream. We keep having our classes and our social gatherings and our learning virtually. We keep sustaining each other virtually. But we count. We count the passage of time. Because time is the only thing we can ever get back. The Torah tells us that we mark sacred time, but we also know that when we count time, we're acknowledging the time that has passed us by. These 4 weeks in the past, we look ahead to the time when we'll count going forward. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be filled with grief or anxiety or sad. Traditionally, when we count the Omer, the beginning of this period is a period of semi-mourning. For those of you who saw me post a video on Facebook of my wife Andrea buzzing my hair, trying to give me a haircut. I'm sure many are in that stage now when they've tried to give themselves or each other haircuts at home. The reason was because traditionally, from the beginning of Passover until the 33rd day of the Omer, you don't get a haircut. Some don't shave. Some don't listen to instrumental music. Traditionally, you don't have weddings during these days. This semi-mourning period is a period of mourning because the Talmud in Tractate Yevamot cites a plague that happened to Rabbi Akiva and his students some 1900 years ago. And according to Yevamot 61b, 12,000 pairs of students, 12,000 chavruta pairs of Rabbi Akiva died of a plague in a single day. They were struck down by a mysterious plague, the Gemara says. They left our lives, they left this world, just like that. They were healthy and then they weren't. And we see the way that this pandemic, the way that this virus is taking too many lives in this world, in our own towns and our own community. And as we count the days at home and in isolation, as we count the days since our building's been closed, as we count the Omer during this period of mourning, I can't help but think that each and every day that we count, 28 days, 4 weeks, and more to come, that we've been at home, really not just days that we acknowledge we're flattening the curve, but they're days that we're in mourning for so much loss of life of our loved ones, so much loss of life still yet to come. The Talmud goes on to explain why is it the 33rd day, what we call Lag BaOmer, a time when we can celebrate again. In Israel, you see people have bonfires, barbecues. Then after those 33 days of mourning, all of a sudden it's a day of celebration. And that same part of the Talmud explains that with 12,000 Chavrutza perished, 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva perished. There was no Torah in the world that was being taught. There was no Torah for people to grab onto. So we say that Torah is an Eitz Chaim Hi Lamachaziki Ba, that it's only a tree of life. If we grasp it, if we hold on to it, and if it finds meaning and value in our lives, if we use it as a crutch to help sustain us in our lives, especially when life is hard. And for those 33 days, as the plague continued, as Rabbi Akiva's students perished, there was no Torah in this world. You know, for me personally, when life is hard, it's Torah that holds me up. It's the values and ethics of our tradition. It's about my wrestling with God. It's about being together, connected with community, even virtually. It's about understanding for me that Torah is the Eitz Chaim Hi, that tree of life that I'm tied to, I'm connected to, even and especially when life is hard. Now, as today marks 28 days of being at home, Hayom Shmonaves Rim Yom. As today marks Arba Shavuot, 4 weeks of counting, being at home. I need Torah now more than ever. And that morning ended, the Talmud says, when Rabbi Akiva taught Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua Torah. Rabbi Akiva went to the south and taught them Torah, and these 5 rabbis revived Torah in their time. It's not that mourning stopped, because mourning never really stops. But rather, in their grief, in their sadness, in their fear, they found meaning in Torah again. They understood that Torah can and will always be an Eitz Chaim Hi, a tree of life. We cling to it when we need it most. My hope and prayer, as we continue to count these days and mark sacred time, that we always find Torah to sustain us. And as we will count more days and weeks ahead, and as we continue to mourn together as a community, as a country, and as a world, one people, it's lifting each other up as community. It's holding each other up. It's clinging to Torah as a tree of life that will lead us out of this period of mourning, that will get us through this plague, this pandemic that we're all experiencing together. Let us count time as we look ahead to a time when the sacred occasions we celebrate will only be occasions of joy. And let us say, Amen.